Beautiful. So it
Ooh.
is, well, Rav Daniel, the pleasure is ours, and it's really such an honor to be able to invite you. We've lost you for a moment, but it's such a pleasure to invite you to share some words with our kehillah. And our kehillah is in the midst of a bit of complexity here, and there's a difficult situation throughout the world, but kind of the last week has been particularly tough here in the Melbourne Jewish community, and with going back into more significant lockdown and some
Wow.
internal and external issues that are going on without going into too much detail. But needless to say, it's a difficult time, and we also face the very likely prospect of not being together again for Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur, for sure. So we don't have such politicians in Israel that will make sure that they'll have minyanim over Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Here, it's quite the opposite, and so
Hmm.
there's a chance, we don't know, but it's not looking very, very likely at this moment.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
I think in general in the world, people are looking for ways to connect to tefillah. But right now, I think there's a deep need for us to be building these kelim, to be building these tools that will allow us to connect to tefillah. And so it's really an honor for us to have you, Rav Daniel. And I mentioned to my kihila at other times, I mean, my years in Yeshivat Bat Ayin were some of the most important of my life. And my learning with you was some of the most important Torah that I ever learned, and to this day continues to deeply impact the way that I look at the Torah, and that I look at the world, and that I understand this world. And I shared with the Kehillah our conversation, which was so meaningful and beautiful to me. And it's really such a pleasure to be able to welcome you here, to share your wisdom, and to give us some tools to connect to tefillah. Now, I know that you love to have dialogue with people, right? I'm going to spotlight you, but if at any time you want me to take the spotlight off so you can see more people, or you let me know what you want to do,
Hmm.
but initially I'll spotlight you so that people can behold, and then we'll see how
Oh,
things go. But
cool. Okay. Actually, I see that I can do a gallery view on my screen, which doesn't affect what happens on your screen,
the truth
correct?
is, everybody, now that you mention it, everybody, you can do whatever you want. If you go up to the top right corner, friends, you can leave. No, you go up to the top right corner, and where it says view. So if you don't want the spotlight view, you can change it to gallery view. That is correct.
Wow. And all of these beautiful people are there in Melbourne. Is that where you are?
Yes.
There may be a few who are maybe from Eretz Yisrael. I sent it to people in Eretz Yisrael, but I'm not sure. I don't know.
Beautiful. Wow. Wow. An amazing technology that enables us to cross oceans like this. Saved me a long flight.
Well, it doesn't say it. Well, one day we'll get you here, okay?
Okay. I might actually show up. I'm so happy to see you, Rav Noam, and to see you in this kind of a function of being a channel to people for spiritual understanding and deepening relationship with Hakadosh Baruch Hu, with God, and with the Torah. That is like only the Yiddish term "naches" can express what I'm feeling in my heart right now, and that means naches. I don't know how to translate it into English. I don't think there's an equivalent.
You don't have to.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do with you today is actually in the shadow of what you described of Noam, of the inability, perhaps likely inability of your congregation to gather together for the tefillot of Rosh Hashanah, is to explore what could be a practice for everyone here that would access for you what it is that's meant to happen in tefillah on Rosh Hashanah in its most foundational sense, meaning that there's something actually which is primal about the tefillah, specifically tefillah on Rosh Hashanah. And that's what I want to explore with you today. And it's perhaps going to be helpful for you to have a Chumash Breshit in front of you. Those of you who have the book of Genesis available, it'll only be 2 or 3 verses that we'll look at, but they're extremely edifying, and I think could be of assistance to you to have them rather than us getting involved in share screen and this kind of other sort of things that can become impediments. Yeah, so Rosh Hashanah is actually a very profound day for prayer, and the reason for that is because in the most existential sense, by which I mean in the most definitional sense of what it means to be a human being, we are a creature of prayer, or a creature that is actually at its first creation given the mission of prayer. And this is very relevant to us when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, for the very simple reason that Rosh Hashanah is actually the day of the creation of man, the creation of the first human being. I say man, and you'll have to excuse my gender language because I'm using man by capital M, but actually the rabbis say that the first man, the primal human being, was male and female together, bound together as one. But we're going to say man anyway with the capital M, because that's just become the way it is for now. Anyhow, that's just easy for me to talk that way. So, or Adam. So the first human being as a whole of male and female was created on that day. And actually, when we talk about in the prayers of Rosh Hashanah, Hayom Harat Olam, this is the day that really in a way that the universe was born, or more actually, more literally, that the universe was conceived in the birthing process sense. What we're talking most particularly about is the creation of a human being. And when the rabbis date things, right, it's kind of odd to date things, when you're talking about the creation, but they're willing to do that in a somewhat mythic fashion and say that on the 25th of Elul, the month that we're in now, the light was created and the chaos began to become organized, and the planets began to aggregate, and the solar system came about, and all of these things which happened on the first day. That was the 25th of Elul, and on the 26th, there was a division of the areas of the universe that are beyond our world, with the dividing line of the atmosphere, which is called in the Torah the waters above and the waters below, and etc. We go through the days, epics, millions of years. We don't really know how long a day is because there's no sun and moon at that point anyway, so no sense in trying to calculate those. But when we get to the 6th day, so man is created. That, by the way, is actually what we count from. To be honest, it's to me, it's a bit of superfluous conversation to talk about, does the biblical story fit with the science or doesn't fit with the science? When we talk about this being 5781 and we're about to go into 5782, we're actually dating from when the first human being that functions as a human being came onto the planet. And that was 5781 years ago, 5782 years ago, which actually interestingly fits with certain genetic changes which occurred around 5,000 years ago in human beings, which is something you can look up and look into. But what happened before then, I don't know, it could have been billions of years, trillions of years, who knows? But the point is, for us, that it's that first day of humanity that matters to us. And that's what Rosh Hashanah is about. Okay, so what we want to explore, especially in the context that that your rabbi has set for us, what we want to explore is the particular relation between that day and prayer. And it's an extraordinary relationship. It really is, because what I want to take you through right now is the story of creation, which is the lesser known story of creation. It's in the second chapter of Genesis, the second chapter of Bereshit, starting from verse 4. Starting from verse 4, we have what is basically a repeat of the creation story, but from an entirely different perspective. Instead of the first story, which is the more familiar one, which is Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz, which is usually translated in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This second story, starting with verse 4, begins Eile toldot hashamayim v'haaretz bihi bar'am, which means this is the generative, right? It's usually translated as the generations of, but this is the generative universe. This is the universe now, what I'm going to describe, which is not one which is simply God acting with fiat, with just establishing and doing, but rather there's something which is generational about this universe, starting with the word eile, which means these, meaning that we're talking about something which is not just one creative power or one creative result. Very, very interesting. Look at the continuation of that verse. Eile toldot hashamayim v'haaretz bihi bar'am. In Hebrew, bihi bar'am, which is a very strange word, which means in their becoming created. In their becoming created. It's very process-oriented, in them becoming created. Wait, what happened to Bereshit bara, which in Hebrew is, the act? Here, there's something almost cooperative, almost passive, a coming about, bihi bar'am. Biyom asot Adonai Elohim eretz v'shamayim. On the day of the doing of, oh my gosh, there's two names for God here. Havaya, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, and Elohim. We used to just have one God. Now we've got two. This is very bad news for monotheists. What's going on? Why do we have two names? But Eretz v'shamayim. Wait a minute. I thought God created the heavens and the earth. This ends with Hashem Elokim, this two named God. Let's be a little more conservative about this. This two named God created earth and heaven. Wow. Earth and heaven. I thought it was heaven and earth. Why did we flip it around? Now we're going, upside down from bottoms up, Okay. It's not Purim, so it's not time for bottoms up right now. We're flipping this around. Excuse my sense of humor. Just kind of get used to it. It's because I like looking at people's smiles. So, but anyhow, so this is actually an amazing verse. And what's most powerful for us is that it stands in contradistinction to the most famous verse in the Bible, which is in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. We've got, these are the generations or the generative power of heaven and earth when they became created. On the day, one day, what do you mean one day? I thought there were 6 days. On the one day that two named God, Havaya Elokim, Hashem Elokim, made earth and heaven. So for a careful reader, this can become confusing at first, which is the best way to read, is first to be confused. As Rav Noam remembers, that's first gestation of a novel thought is confusion. So yeah, just like to sit with that. Wait a minute, what happened here? What happened here? How did we end up with one day? How did we end up with a two named God? How did we end up with a passive process of creation? How did we end up with it flipping around of him making earth first? What did he do first? And in fact, the rabbis in the Medrash actually explore that question. What came first, heaven or earth or heaven? And as you can imagine, those of you who are familiar somewhat with rabbinic literature, it's Hillel who says earth came first. First, reality, existence. It's Shammai who says heaven came first, ideals and the transcendent, which is something which our people and all of us deal with all the time. Where do we start? From our humanity or from the divine impulse? Let's put that aside. In any case, what's happened here, quite amazingly and quite significantly for us, is we're about to get a description which is different than the first story and has certain emphases that are going to become very relevant to prayer. So let's take a look here. The next verse, verse 5. V'chol siach hasadeh terem yeh ba'aretz. There was not yet any trees, according to Rashi's reading. There are no trees. And there's no grass. Because God didn't yet make it rain on the ground. And there was no human being to work the ground. Now, another question. Is there some connection between there's no human being to work the ground and the fact that it's not raining? I mean, we're familiar with ecological impacts on changes in the Earth's surface and patterns of rain. I mean, that is true, but we're talking about one human being here hoeing the ground or not hoeing the ground, that would be so significant in terms of bringing rain. Doesn't seem to be what's happening. What does seem to be what's happening is that somehow there's a work that humanity must do in order to bring rain. What would that work be that is to be done in order to bring rain? Now, I want to point out, very interestingly, that the first words of this verse, verse 5, are v'chol siach hasadeh terem yeh ba'aretz, which I said means there were no trees. Trees were not yet on the ground. But that word siach is very tempting to point out that it has a subtext meaning. Because sach in Hebrew means not only a tree, but also a conversation, a dialogue. What do trees have to do with dialogue? That's a very interesting insight that the Torah is offering us, and we'll come back to that in a second. But I just want to point out that there's a crucial subtext here, because if you're saying at the beginning, you're using a word, this is the first time this word is used in the Bible, because before we did talk about trees that grew on the third day, but there they were called eitzim. Different word was used. This word siach is meaning, according to Rashi, the same thing, but it has a different word. What's going on here? Now, let's watch what happens as this unfolds, because the next verse, verse 6, says, Ve'ed ya'aleh min ha'aretz v'yishkat kol pnei ha'adama. There was a mist that came up from the ground and watered the entire planet. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, but first of all, I don't know why we're being told it right now. I thought we needed rain, which is called matar, first of all. Second of all, what is clear is that there's water around. So it's not like there's no water. That's also interesting. Third, why is this stuck here? Because the next verse, verse 7, seems to revert to where we were. Where we were was that there's no man to work the ground, right? So let's get back to that. Okay, let's do that. Let's get back to that. And we'll get back to that in verse 7. Vayitzer Adonai Elohim min et ha'adam afar min ha'adama vayipach be'apav nishmat chayim vayi ha'adam lenefesh chaya. Beautiful, amazing, powerful verse, and we'll see in this context very much a direction toward for us in the work we're going to explore, because it says that this two-named God, Hashem Elokim, formed man from the dust of the earth, breathed into him the breath of life, and then man became nefesh chaya, a living being. Okay, so to just be kind of like, simple about this, we've solved the problem of Adam Ein Lavodat Adama, right? God made man so that he would apparently work the earth. And in some way, for some reason, that will bring rain somehow, okay? We had that strange interruption in the middle about the mist coming up. Okay, that needs some understanding. But we end up with the nefesh chaya, a living creature. Now listen to this, and here we're going to start to move into what it is that is so meaningful for us here. Why living? What do you mean living creature was there? I mean, actually, there are other living creatures. Animals have already been created. And by the way, I thought we just had 6 days of creation and there ought to be plenty of foliage around. What is this? So Rashi says a most amazing thing. Rashi says, what does that mean he's an alive creature? Animals are also alive creatures. He didn't tell me something about being a human being. So Rashi says, yeah, but he's more alive than any of the others because he has awareness and speech. He has de'ah and dibur. He has consciousness, would be better translated, and communication. That is to be more alive than any other creature. And we want to explore that. And here's one key to this. Siach. Remember we started, there's no siach in the field, right? Okay, wow. No siach. And we end up with a creature who's more alive because he's able to converse. Siach. Wow, interesting. Okay. So maybe it's not just trees that are missing, but it's the possibility of communication. Is that connected to trees? I mean, first of all, yeah, it really is because trees are actually communicating with us all the time, right? I mean, every time you breathe out, you're communicating with the tree because the tree's just waiting for you to breathe out because you give him the most tasty, delectable CO2 possible, He loves that. That he breathes in and transforms it back into oxygen, which makes it breathable for us. We're in a constant conversation with trees, okay? So we're really embedded in our environment in a way in which we're on the most basal level of survival and a constant communication, okay? So this is like, first of all, this is one of my beginning kavanot, one of my beginning intentions every day. I breathe in and breathe out, but I think of the trees and I look at the trees as I breathe in and breathe out and experience myself as being in a conversation with them. I mean, we really are. It's like a beautiful interaction, which so much empowers us in our ecological awareness. And in a spiritual sense, so much awakens us to the unity of our planet. I mean, my gosh, I'm just in that most basic function. Okay, that's one thing. But here's something even deeper. And that is that the word siach, which means both tree and talk or conversation, is rooted in the same root, which is sach. Those of you who know how to speak Hebrew should know that sach is something my grandchildren are doing right now in our backyard, which is swimming. Because lasuach is actually to float above. Yeah, I see why that's a tree. It floats above. I get it. It's something which has to do with going high, right? Sach. But here's a beautiful also intention about sicha. And that is that when I talk to you, like the way it's happening right now, it's like what I need is, in a very deep sense, to transcend myself, right? And I need you guys in a way to transcend yourselves so we can meet somewhere in the middle. Like, if I don't go beyond myself and I just sit here like talking to myself, which I can do, but thank God I'm looking at you. So I know I'm talking to you. Then what I really am seeking to do is communicate. Com, which comes from the same prefix as compound or community or communication, all have to do with a coming together. But to come together, I need to transcend my own small world and meet your world and rise above myself, right? In the same way that a tree, so to speak, rises up. So that Siach actually is introducing to us what Rashi says. You need to have Dea, you need to have consciousness. Consciousness is our ability to transcend our current condition, right? To transcend our physical location and become not only aware, but aware of ourselves embedded in a world beyond ourselves. You see, awareness is just, okay, it can be phenomenological, like I'm just looking at the phenomenon. But consciousness requires of me a ability to step beyond. That's what Rashi's talking about when he says De'ah and Dibur, that man has consciousness, and by virtue of consciousness, he has communication, Dibur. Rashi says those two things, in my opinion, because he really wants us to look back at Siach at the beginning of this little section and discover that what it was that God was waiting for. And here's the punchline, right? What it was that God was waiting for that was not yet was a creature of communication. Because God is looking for a world of Hi Bar'am that will come about by virtue of an interaction of toldot, of connectivity, as opposed to a world in which it's just him doing it and everything else just saying, yes, sir. No. He's not going to bring rain until there's communication, until there is a report back from the planet that says, we desire life. The only way the planet's going to talk is if there's a creature who will be the voice of that planet. And that's humanity. That's us. We are actually created from the ground as the living expression and conscious awakening of the planet. This is us. This is so important to be in full recognition of this, especially on Rosh Hashana, which is the celebration of this day when this happened, that our planet was given the ability to communicate back to its creator and say, hey, I'm thirsty. Hey, I want to grow. Hey, I really do want to grow. I do want to grow. I'm turning to you because nothing is growing here. I need a connection. I need an intercourse. I need an interaction between myself and you, God, for anything to happen here. Otherwise, there's not going to be toldot. There won't be generations, right? I mean, that's just the way it works. There need to be two who join together to bring about those generations. That life, that growth. Wow. So actually, what's going on here in the Torah? What's going on here in the Torah is the Torah has presented to us in chapter 1, one picture of creation, where it's just God doing it and everything else obeying his command. And then in the second chapter, it's like, look again. In fact, the rabbis say, the reason it says Eile toldot hashamayim and doesn't say Ve'eile toldot hashamayim, the reason it says these are the generations and it doesn't say and these are the generations, is to correct what you might have thought, that this is actually continuation of the previous story. It's not, they say. God actually rejected that previous story. He's starting again. This time with the name Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey together with Elohim, which the rabbis say, and we're not going to go into this now, which the rabbis say is the combination of din, which means the clarity of boundaries, and compassion, rachamim, compassion. Get it, compassion in English. It's a great word because there's that C-O-M again, communication, compassion, a shared passion, a shared passion. That's really what rachamim is, a shared passion. It's not mercy. Mercy is chemla. That's something else. Compassion. Okay, fantastic. So now what do we got here? We have this marvelous picture, a marvelous picture. We are yearning, or let's speak for God right now, okay? We can do that because he told us about himself. God is yearning for a planet that will communicate with him, and he will bring it rain and sustenance. He will nourish it when there is a response, a calling that comes from it to him, to speak to him, to ask of him. The philosophers always say, oh, come on, man, God knows everything. What do we need to pray to him for? I mean, after all, he knows exactly what you need. He knows what you need even better than you. Or, come on, man, get off it. He knows what's in your heart, doesn't he? He reads thoughts. He's like a great mind reader, God. I mean, like, he knows everything. What's the problem? I mean, why can't he just figure out what you want to pray for? What do you need me talking for? Let me sleep in today, like, or whatever. Like, he'll figure it out. He's a lot smarter than I am. Why would I talk about it with him? That's actually so, what can I say? Sort of like solipsistic, by which I mean it's like so insular. That's like this philosophical conception of an insular God, like there's these like entities that exist, each one as discrete particles. And then there's the biggest discrete particle of all. He's called God. This is like a horrific conception. Rather, what the Torah is describing here is, don't ask me why philosophically. Ask me about what I've chosen to create here. And what I have chosen to create is an interactive universe. And the interactor is man. Okay? So this is like chapter 1. Really, it's chapter 1 of Judaism. Chapter 1 is that this is the world that we live. And therefore, you can hear how elemental and, like I said before, existential, meaning defining the nature of what we're doing here, defining the nature of our existence, prayer is. This is not some kind of like game of like, I'm trying to get you to feel like you need me, God says. Or, yeah, I know everything you need and this really doesn't matter, but you need to be learning about yourself. Or, all these kinds of things that people say about prayer. No, we're really communicating and we're doing something. And it's pretty strange, I know, but it's just the way the Torah works. What are you going to do? That's what Rashi says is the work that was missing. And now let's get back to the question we asked. It's not raining because there's no man to work the ground. Well, the work of the ground is not with the hoe. The work of the ground that we're waiting for is the work, which is the special and unique service of man, which means communicating, speaking, looking around, getting a picture of the situation, and somehow, and this will be the second piece that we'll explore, somehow understanding what this planet needs and speaking its voice to God. And by the way, this is so much a revolution. You see, in the first story, you got everything being created, and then man walks onto the scene on the sixth day, right? In this second story, nothing can function until man is created. And wildly, man is created for the sake of making everything else function. We are here as servants to this planet, communicating to God about what I would call a joint love object, which is this creation, and communicating to him what it needs through the avenue of feeling what it is that we want. And that's what I want to explore with you in the second piece of this this class. But right now, I want to offer an opportunity if there are aspects of this people want to explore, because the next piece of this, I want to actually bring a practice to you that will, Bezrat Hashem, with God's help, enlighten the way you end up praying on Rosh Hashanah and your prayer in general as something which derives directly out of what we've been exploring. But before we get to that, anyone want to share, or, wow, I'm taking from this, your sentence can start, wow, I'm taking from this something new here, or I was really touched by when you said, or I didn't understand what you meant by. Okay, those would be three different ways you could start your question. Okay, anyhow, anyone want to speak up?
Maybe I'll, Naomi, you want to go for it?
If I understood correctly, it's like we're co-creators with Hashem, like in terms of bringing the world into a sort of functioning place.
Okay, so there's definitely a partnership here. In other words, we could not make that ground, and we couldn't make those trees. No. So I'm not sure that co-creator is a fair term, but rather we're lovers partnered. I like that better, because there are things that we cannot do and only he can. So co-creator is a bit too much of an equivalation between us and him. I think we got to be careful. There's a lot of avodah zarah around these days, so we got to watch our terms. But I would definitely agree with you that there's a teaching here, which is that the world cannot come to its full realization without our involvement in our meeting with God. Yeah. Besides all the things we do, and but like, so a co-creation, I would kind of like step away from that and say a joining in a partnership of love. I like that one better.
Shelley, you want to go
Someone
for it?
raised their hand. I saw some lady raise her hand. I think her name is Shelley.
Thank you. Hi, Rabbi. I don't know. I think that I'm taking the deep of it, in the sense that perhaps we are like that rain, that water that's coming down to the roots of the tree and nourishing that tree from the bottom, from the roots up. And in that way, we are coming introspectively into our own deep prayer and giving that tree life, and our prayer is the life for that tree, and for that to sort of nourish and fulfill what we need and connect to Hashem, perhaps. That's sort of the way I'm reading into it.
Beautiful. That's kind of a almost a kind of a bringing it into an image for yourself about this process that the person praying is experiencing, of experiencing his own roots and praying from his own roots, and that is reflecting the plant roots, which are themselves a reflection of life being rooted in its source of nourishment, and we're all kind of meeting there. Was that the picture?
Yes.
Wow, I wish you could.
Yeah.
I think you should paint that, Shelley. I think you should paint
God, I'm not an artist.
I think Adam wanted to say something, and then Penina.
I was just going to say that it feels like a different framing of the Genesis 1-2 than Rav Soloveitchik's framing of it, which is sort of the explanation I'm used to hearing, and I quite like the way that you've made it relational, where that explanation feels not relational, feels solitary. So I like that. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, this is not the lonely man of faith. Nope. Okay, I'll leave it at that. But you're absolutely right about noticing the difference. I would say I'll just put one thing, Adam, on the table also, especially since your name is Adam. So you deserve to have a better understanding of Adam, the first Adam, and that is that. I would say the statement of it is not good for man to be alone. Capital M, man again. It is not good for Adam to be alone, right? I hope you're married, Adam. Are you married? Anyhow, leave that aside.
I'm married.
Okay, good. Okay. So it's not good for Adam to be alone, which is actually, I will make him a partner, basically, right? A partner with different aspects of the translating of what an Ezer Kenegdo is. But what's really meaningful there is I believe that in that statement of the Lo tov hayot adam levado, right? That it's not good for man to be alone, is an ontological statement. It's a statement about the nature of reality and what reality demands. It demands togetherness. And somehow, like I kind of hear, kind of a little bit of a divine monologue in that. It's not good to be alone in general. Let me make myself an Ezer Kenegdo, which is indeed what we become, which is, very, very relational, very much. Okay, but thank you for pointing that out. Yeah.
Penina, did you want to share something?
Yeah, although at the moment I'm forgetting what brought on this thought. Also tell me, how's my audio? Is it okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool. I had a similar visualization to Shelley, so I have started painting it, which was quite enjoyable. So thank you for those visualizations. But I think at the moment, I'm just thinking it's kind of a shame that humanity has taken our power and abused it. And it's like, we're not treating the earth and what you're saying, what we brought on in the first place, we're not treating it well. And I wonder if I don't know, if people could think more about our role in bringing on nature, I guess, and how we need to uphold that. It's just, at the moment, I feel like with science, I've been starting to think a lot about how we don't deserve, I guess, the planet because we've been destroying it as much. And I think, the way that you're describing it makes me think that we do deserve it, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you. Wow. I'm really touched by that. And I want to, really take that for all of us, really, Penina, as a calling to both awaken our consciousness, to pray for that, that there be that kind of revolution in our relationship with the planet, which, currently it is demanding of us. You people down under are experiencing that very directly, and all of us are really. And the third thing is I think it's so beautiful to see it. Yeah, wow. That's right here. That's actually what it says. It's not raining. Things aren't growing. Solution is a human being, as opposed to, okay, man, walk onto the stage, do with it what you will. The man of technology will now govern the planet and bring it to where it will. No, wait. We're talking about stewardship. We're not talking about ownership. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Penina. Okay. Yeah. So let's move into something now together that actually can reflect a practice out of the teaching. And I want to do that by pointing out something which you may or may not have in front of you, which is Rashi, who says the following. When he describes what it was that the world was missing, he says He says that Ein Adam Lakir B'tovatam Shel Geshamim. There was no man to appreciate the goodness of the rains. And when he made man, again, capital M, so then he saw the planet's need, Yadat Zorech, he saw the planet's need, and he prayed. Okay, 3 stages in Rashi, okay? 3 stages. First stage is to be aware of the goodness of the rain. There was no creature who was aware of the goodness of the rain. We're going to get back to what that means in a sec. Then man saw what was needed, okay? Second step. Third step, he prayed. Now, I want to take this Rashi literally in the sense of there being a chronological order that's being described here, okay? It's a chronological order. Namely, stage 1 is to recognize the goodness of the rain. Beautiful. Stage 2, to notice that there's a need down here. Stage 3, to pray. Now, here's the point. Usually we're used to a prayer coming first by virtue of seeing what the problem is and then praying for it to be repaired, right? I mean, you see a sick person, lo aleinu, we shouldn't know of such things, right? We see a sick person. So, oh my God, I'm like really going to get myself worked up. I'm not going to get myself worked up. I am worked up about this person's pain, his trial, his struggle. I am worked up about that. I'm praying to you, God, about him seeing health. Okay. But here's something different. First, there's a recognition of the good of the rain, right? What does that mean, the recognition of the good of the rain? Here's the suggestion, is that Adam, even before it ever rained, Adam had to see the good of the rain. That's interesting. He never saw rain before. How is he supposed to recognize the goodness of rain? Where's that information going to come from? And I think the place it comes from is that strange verse I told you about, right? Where the mist comes up out of the ground and then it waters the ground. Listen to this amazing insight of Rashi. Rashi says, why is the mist coming up and watering the ground? I'll tell you. Because God will be making man out of the dust of the earth. You cannot form dust into a body unless you add water so that the particles stick together. Okay? Lama davar domeh, Rashi says, it's like someone who wants to make dough. So he pours the flour into the bowl and then he adds to the flour water. And look who's here, my grandson Keden. Hang on a second. Excuse me, I hope that didn't disturb you too much. If I could have moved the camera, I would have. Anyhow, so yeah, like how do you make dust into a body? So Rashi says, of course, like a baker adds water to flour, so you need to add water to the ground. So you look at that Rashi and, kind of chuckle at the primitive thoughts about how bodies are made. The Rashi is not primitive at all. The Rashi is a profound insight into what we're talking about, because here's the deal. Man is actually constructed from dry ground and water. So if you're going to know the goodness of rain before it rained, you've got to know it from within yourself. And the access for Adam to that knowledge of the goodness of rain is the fact that were it not for water, he would not exist. that means that the knowing of the goodness of the rain actually is from inside. And then from there, he will voice that need. But, okay, now, what's going to happen inside the consciousness of this prayer, Adam HaRishon? He will first be seeing the goodness of the rain from within himself and out there. Out there meaning imagining it, because it's not there yet, coming down and raining and bringing about the flourishing of the planet. You get this? This is like a really important manual for praying from what is whole as opposed to what is missing. If we go back to that person who's ill, we've come to that person because we care about them. And we're aware of their need. So that's what's really motivated us to arrive. That's true. But now what do I do? What's my next step? According to Rashi, my next step is to see the goodness. Like I saw the goodness of the rain when I was the first human being. I see now the goodness of this person's health. How about if I would be seeing this person healthy? Lakir betovata shel briut. To see the goodness of health, okay? And then notice that this person is not, and then pray. How would that be? That's a very different stance. And it's actually based on a statement of the rabbis in Brachot, which is on page 31 of Brachot, Lamed Aleph, Amud Aleph, where the Gemara says, the Talmud says, prayer can only come out of a place of joy. No, we're not used to that, right? We're used to, feeling the angst and then praying. A remarkable statement in the Talmud, which, as is the way of the Talmud, has many statements which contradict it. but that's because of the plethora of Jewish teaching that, is just the beautiful symphony or cacophony, depending on how you're listening to it, of different voices. Okay, fine. But nevertheless, it does say that. And what I believe is happening there in that statement of the Talmud is we're actually being encouraged we're being guided, better, more literally, to pray from a place of joy. Like, now, how do I pray from a place of joy? My gosh, the guy is sick. My gosh, the world is sick. My gosh, like, I don't have any money for Shabbos, man. My gosh, I don't know, whatever it is, right? My kid is like, he's like going nuts, with his lusts or his addictions. I don't know, whatever it is, we've all got stuff we're dealing with. I'm bringing the most radical examples. Or my 15-year-old hasn't talked to me for 2 days. Okay, whatever it is, right? We don't have to make it too audacious. But the idea here is like another evolution, right? Of like, maybe we're supposed to first see that fullness that we are yearning towards, and then see what's missing, and then pray. Yeah. So, Rav Noam, do we have time for another like 10 minutes here?
Yeah, 10 minutes. I think if people have places to go, I mean, we're all locked down here, but if people need to go, they can go. But certainly we have, 10 more minutes, of course.
So we finished the teaching. Now I'd like to offer an opportunity for us to do this. And then what I want to suggest to you is on Rosh Hashana, if you're not together, okay, so take advantage of that day when this first happened, right? That Adam did this. Take advantage of that first day when this happened to imagine the future world in its perfection and connect to that and then pray. Hey, you know what? Actually, our tefillot, our davenings are all about that. This most beautiful. Meloch al kol haolam kulo b'chvodecha v'yeda kol yitzur ki ata yitzarto v'yeda kol pe'ul ki ata pe'alto. God, we need you king over the world, which, bringing out the very best of our planet. And every creature will know that he has come from you. Every I don't know how to, in Hebrew, we got two words. Every creature, again, right, but in a different style, will recognize where he came from. I mean, we're supposed to be imagining that on Rosh Hashanah, because we're supposed to be doing what Adam HaRishon did, namely imagining that perfected world, getting in touch with that experientially also and feeling the joy of it. And it is so pleasurable and joyous. And then from that, being connected to the divine and praying. You get it? So here, I'm actually going to take out my clarinet. And what I'd like to do is kind of guide you through 7-8 minutes of your own praying for someone. Okay, that's usually the easiest for people. Like there's someone in your life who, this person really, I can imagine this person a lot better off than the way they are now. Okay, that's the invitation. I could see my son, or I can see my wife or husband, or I can see my parent, or I can see my boss, or whatever. My student, a lot better off than the way he is now. Okay, so I want you to think about someone who you'd like to actually pray for right now. Yeah. And who you could actually say that about what I just said about them. I can imagine that person, in a really better state, a really better condition, a really better realization of himself. Okay, so I want you to choose who you're going to actually pray for. Yeah, we're going to do that right now. Yeah, we've got a minion here, and I will actually guide you, just assist you also with music. So give me a minute to get organized here. Are there any questions about what we're about to do? Like, is anything not clear about the direction we're taking? I will guide you through it, but maybe there's something unclear to you about the direction we're taking. Okay, so one of the things that I've discovered is that this clarinet helps people and move through different spiritual modalities. So what I'm going to invite you to do, and again, oops, hang on a sec. Is to turn off your cell phones and just allow yourself, if it's an option for you to be in a kind of a quiet space. So again, as I say, we'll keep this to just a brief introduction here. And what I'm going to do is ask you to kind of like, to sit, relax comfortably in order to assist you in being able to imagine. Because actually what we're doing is we're going to be sach. As I explained before, we're going to kind of float up a little bit. And in that floating up, enable ourselves to access an imagination that is other than current reality, right? That is the de'ah that I was talking about, that incredible human capacity to move beyond the current situation. Okay, that's de'ah or lasuach, to move up. And then what I'm going to do is invite you to pray. But before we get there, it's helpful to just kind of like relax and let go of the currency of the situation. Like we're used to active doing, watching, keeping our eye on, etc. Those behaviors get in the way of our ability to access a higher vision, or forget about higher and lower, just a different one than what's currently around us. Okay. So yeah, if you choose, you can just watch me play. If you really want to go along with this, so then, I'd suggest you like close your eyes, relax, kind of sit back, take a deep breath, and allow the makom, the place, to hold you as I play you a few tones, which will assist you in just being in your own space. And just allow yourself to relax your shoulders, to appreciate that you're sitting on a chair, noticing that, breathing. And noticing that breath come in and out. And to recall the person that you're coming to pray for, their name or their image. Kind of be with that. How they look, how it feels to be near them. To allow your imagination to play with that. And now awaken your appreciation, your care, your love for this person, and allow yourself to be taken over by that feeling of love and care. And sometimes it helps to focus your attention around your heart for that love to awaken more strongly. And you can let this music also assist you in that. Now allow yourself to open up an imagination of this person in their best, most manifest, most beautiful reality. If it's someone who is sick, to see them so fully robust and full of life. If it's someone sad, to see them bursting with joy. If it's someone single that you're praying for them to be married, to see them under the chuppah. To allow that power that you have to see a different future to be awakened in you and focused on this particular person for whom you're praying. And yeah, now's the time to pray for their achieving this, for Hashem sending them the blessing that they need so that they can have this, so that those rains come down, that health appears, that happiness is theirs, their lives are realized. Yeah, to allow yourself to open your heart, and if you choose, your mouth, and say a prayer to Hashem. Short, long, a word. It can just be the word describing what comes up for you, or more. And at this opportunity, I want to also pray for you and bless you that your year be so full and rich, and seeing my dear Talmid Rav Noam and such a beautiful community that's so able to flourish and grow. And invite you to, as you complete your own praying, to feel thankful towards Hashem, to feel, wow, yeah, this can really be, and to thank Him for that power, that rain will indeed come down, that reality that is going to shift for that person, and that Hashem can really provide that fullness and completion and that tov that you've seen in this visionary prayer. Eliata ve'odeka Elohai aromemeka Eliata ve'odeka Elohai aromemeka arumimeka eliata mudiko Elohayarumimeka. Okay, it's now time to just say Amen to everyone's prayers. And here we'll be joined for a brief summation, and if there are comments people want to make, sharings they would like to share. So those who want to stay for that are welcome to stay for another 2-3 minutes. And if those who feel they need to go now or do need to go, so shalom and thank you. Yeah, but if there's things that people are wanting to share or curious about or wanting to say, here's a chance. Thank you, Penina, for saying that. Yeah, thank you, Chaya, for the thank you.
I'll just share if in lieu of, and please feel free. I mean, it's such a, for me, so beautiful to have this opportunity. The beauty of being on Zoom is not that, I mean, it's amazing. It connects us, and there are some challenges to it, but the beauty of it is that you feel like the person is talking directly to you. But I can assure you that when you're learning with Rav Daniel in a room of many, many people, he is talking directly to you. And so I thank you, Rav Daniel, for just kind of speaking to what we need to hear and really reframing tefillah in that way. And I often pray from a place of lack and seeing the lack, but what a shift to see the possibility and the potential and the health. And I think that's a really beautiful thought to deal with right now, but yes, to bring into this world. And so, I mean, what a beautiful moment, really, on a very personal level, to be able to share you with my community and
Yeah.
Please God, the first of many opportunities. And I'll do the plugging, and please feel free if you do have anything that you wish to share, or anybody has any questions. But I'll just mention Rav Daniel does have some beautiful shiurim online in English and in Hebrew, and beautiful music, as you can tell, incredible musician. So I sent out some links in the email that I sent about this shiur. I sent out some links that you can check him out on. And if you're ever, please God, we can all get back to Eretz Yisrael very soon. Go to Bat Ayin. What a special place. I mean, just a magical place. And yeah, I'm sure Rav Daniel will be happy to connect with you in that space. So thank you, Rav Daniel. Does anybody have anything that they wish to share? Well then.
Thank you, Lionel, for saying that. I see people are also writing in. Thank you, Nomi, for that heart. And yeah, all the people that are writing their comments in. That's also beautiful. If anyone wants to say anything, we have a chance. Yeah, Michelle, Alan, great. Sandy, I see all the things you've written. Thank you.
Yes, Pina, I'll put the links on all the multiple WhatsApp groups that we have.
Yeah, amazing. I want to say also, this is exciting to me to be making contact with you people, and I can tell you that though a lot of my teaching is in Hebrew these days, yeah, there are classes that are kind of more of a chabura style than this, or like people talking, interrupting, getting involved. So they're not always sort of like a direct lecture like that, but you can find them on SoundCloud. Yeah, there's a lot of music up on YouTube. I think it's under my name in English. It's certainly under my name in Hebrew. Yeah, Rav Noam is sending you there. And with God's help, and this is the blessing I ask you guys to help, with God's help, that I finish the book that I'm working on about prayer and bringing these insights and being able to get them out to people like you. I'm writing it in English because I think that they can be, communicated better for people like you that way. And Bezrat Hashem, with God's help, that'll come out Hanukkah time, and we'll send some copies over to
Yes,
Melbourne.
we'll get them over. Just make sure it's in the Queen's English, otherwise we won't understand it.
Oh no! Does that mean
you got to spell everything correctly? That's all. Or incorrectly, I should say. But anyway, Rav Daniel, thank you so much. What a pleasure! What a beautiful experience!
Shana
And thank you all.
Shana Tova to everyone. Yeah. How
Shana
exciting!
Tova.
Bye bye. Shalom.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.